Hello, ladies and gentlemen, YouTubers around the world. I'm your host, Nasty888 here, and today we've got a new patch for Age of Empires, which we've been waiting on. So very exciting to see some more updates. We had a patch, a little while ago, not too long ago, before the recent tournament was announced or played or whatever. So now that's, I guess they're playing on a previous build. I think that there's a tournament this weekend actually. So I'm not sure how they're scheduling this patch. This patch is live today, I believe, though, because as soon as you start scrolling down here, you'll see that the season 8 new map monsters says it's live at 10 a.m., which is already past now. We're now at an hour and a half past this start time, so I believe the patch is up online, ready to go. We'll have to make sure, confirm that, but we're going to be talking about how these patch notes, impact free for all and everything there. So for starters, right here, these this seasonal mode, the monsters that comes back every year. I haven't really played much of that, but it looks like a lot of fun. I'm gonna have to check it out. It looks like it's only for custom games though. I don't think it's gonna impact free for all or any quick match or ranked games, anything like that. It's just these monsters spawn. You can get permanent global bonuses for your units, which are pretty powerful actually. So we'll have to take a look and see how those work. But yeah, there's some rewards for them, and it looks like a fun seasonal event, so you can check it out if you're interested in that. And there's a secondary seasonal event coming after that, which launches in September, and there's even more rewards, so that looks pretty fun. Some changes to the to the ranked season. So this is more for 1v1 and team games, but you can increase the number of maps that you vote. The map pool size changed as well, and so now we're in the 1v1 map pool is being updated, as well as a team game, so these aren't going to impact. Mega Random obviously is the only map we play in FFA, so we're not going to talk about those changes. And then they're making a big change to Roost Bounty right here. So this is pretty interesting. Roost Bounty, basically, instead of killing like deer and boar and whatnot for bounty, you now don't get any bounty for that, but you do get bounty whenever you gather food from animals. So even sheep, deer, or anything that's an animal, you will get 1 gold per 10 food. So I'll talk about that more when we get down to the civilization changes, but that's a huge change, and we're definitely going to be discussing that. Now, gameplay changes, free for all vote menu when you're using a controller. So this doesn't really impact PC players, but like myself, hopefully most people are not using a controller. But if you are, you can now have a menu for your quick matches and vote accordingly. So hopefully that'll help you guys. I guess it maybe have something to do with the queuing of like choosing nomad and standard and whatnot. Maybe there was a issue there. You can select what you want to queue for properly. So now some sheep distribution changes, but these only affect a few 1v1 maps, so we're not going to talk about that either. These are the maps affected, which also don't affect free for all because we're on Mega Random. So now here's a first interesting one. So there was been a bug in a long time standing in free for all, where the monarch would like enter a building such as a tower or a town center, whatever it is. Right as it dies, it gets killed and it goes into the building at the same time, and then you don't get the population bonus for it. So this is huge fix. So that's really nice. Now there's basically, as far as I know, there's now no situation where someone doesn't get the plus 50 pop. They've already a while back they fixed the bug where you could delete your own king if it was on water in a transport ship, and now they've deleted this bug where the monarch is entering the building right as it dies. So now you shouldn't have to worry about. The only thing you got to worry about now is just the monarch getting fed to another player, right? Being donated or gifted to one of your other opponents. So here's the next change to all civilizations. So there's some interesting stuff here. A trade post can now be selected in the fog of war. This allows players more easily check which mercenaries are available to Byzantines. Now, when I read this, I don't really understand what that means, or how or why that has some impact on Byzantine, because trade posts are not merc houses as far as I know. So I don't know what they're trying to suggest here, but There are some changes to the French that we'll talk about later that have to do with this. So this is a huge change too, I believe. Now, I'm not sure exactly what this means, but to me it sounds like they're completely removing like the setup takedown time for these units. So wheeled siege units no longer have to pack unpack, which kind of makes sense from a logical kind of realism kind of impact. If you want to say like a siege unit that has wheels doesn't need to like deploy or whatever, like a mangonel or a trebuchet, and set up all its pieces. It's on wheels. It just goes in, it shoots, and it keeps rolling along. But as far as gameplay and balance wise, I'm not sure. This seems like it might make these units kind of overpowered. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what this is going to do, but as far as I know, we'll have to test it, of course, to find out. But all these siege units now don't have to like set up or whatever, so they'll attack faster. But I don't know if that's actually what's going to be happening here, but I do know that this change right here is a very nice quality of life change. So this change means that units won't idle out. So a lot of times what you'll see when you're fighting with your siege units is they'll kill whatever target you attack clicked on, and they'll stop attacking. Even if there's other enemy units within their range, they'll just idle out. And this won't happen anymore, allegedly. So this is really nice to see. A very nice quality of life fix. Hopefully that works the way that it reads, and that we won't have that problem anymore where siege units stop attacking. I know this won't maybe not impact mangonels and trebuchets, so those units might still idle out. I don't know, but hopefully that doesn't happen anymore. We'll have to wait and see with some testing, of course. Okay, so previously palisade walls placed across or near bounty of a resource in a fog of war would have gaps in the built structure that would leave a passage for enemy units. This should now be fixed. So this is really nice to see. A lot of times when you're building your walls around your base, you're always worried if you're gonna intersect another enemy building, building, neutral units, whatever it is. Obviously, I don't know if that's going to affect, like, say there's some neutral units or whatever dead in the way, that might still leave a gap. But I think for like some resources and buildings and stuff like that, like berries or whatever it is, enemy buildings that are in the way, hopefully there won't be any more gaps, so you won't have this problem where, oh no, there's suddenly a hole in your wall that you missed or whatever. So you can hopefully be a little bit less worried about something like that happening in the game, right? So that's a nice quality of life thing as well. And now I want to talk about the scouts. So a big change to the scouts here, making the professional scouts upgrade a lot easier to use. So what you can do now is you just right click or shift right click a bunch of deer, and your scout will automatically return that to your either your main town center or a building of your choice. So say you're Chinese or Jushi, you can set one of your mills where the imperial official is monitoring to be that drop off target instead of your town center, and then you'll very very easily be able to gather all the deer. So you could you might not need to make a bunch of scouts to do this anymore. You could do it one at a time just by shift clicking your single scout on all of the deer, which is great. Just a huge quality of life change. I'm not sure how viable professional scouts is still. I think it costs a little bit of resources. It's kind of pricey and might take a little bit of time to research. I haven't used it in a long time actually, so I don't even remember offhand what the cost of it is. So we're gonna have to do some testing and see if it's worth it now, but that should be nice. I think especially for like a civ like Rus with this bounty change, it's definitely going to be a viable upgrade to consider. But we'll have to test it out and see. But it's really nice to have this quality of life change in any case. That should make it a lot easier to use at least. All right, so civ specific changes. So here we go into the first civ is Abbasid. So Fertile Crescent discount increased from 30 to 35, I believe. This is the upgrade that decreases your villager cost. It's either that or it's the one on Eco Wing, which decreases your town center cost. So either way, if your town centers are like 5% cheaper or your villagers are 5% cheaper, that's a nice upgrade, right? So makes Eco Wing either better or it makes your Ville upgrade a little better. Swap Grand Bazaar and Armored Caravans. So I'm not sure which this must be Trade Wing stuff, so I'm not sure what those are. We'll have to look at those. But your armor on your trade is reduced from 5/5 to 3/3, so the traders aren't as tanky anymore. But I don't know. This is not a meaningful change. I don't think, at least not in free for all. There's not a lot of times where you're trying to kill traders. Usually you'll just kill the trade post itself, or deny them access to the neutral trade post, right? So I don't think that's going to have a huge impact on anything. Public libraries. So a new upgrade here. So this is kind of interesting. I mean, if 2 HP to all villagers and traders for each eco upgrade research. So if you have a lot, like if you get this upgrade late game, if you get culture like H3, H4, and you already have a lot of eco upgrades, that might make your villagers a little bit more tanky. We'll have to see. It's not a lot of HP, so kind of interesting. Proselytization technology moved to mosque. I'm not sure what that is. Camel archer. So the camel archer is going to be more powerful in a veteran and feudal state, H2, H3, which is interesting. We'll have to see how that impacts things. Camel archer's never been the greatest unit, but this might help it out a little bit. And then the camel rider, the melee camel, is being nerfed in terms of its cost a little bit. Costs a little bit more gold and wood. Byzantine, so Imperial Hippodrome, Triumph, generation speed increased from 30 seconds to 25 seconds. So you'll be able to use that Hippodrome more often. The Cistern, also this is really nice too. The Cistern, the starting flask increased from 2 to 6, so you can do some early aggression with your cataphracts or whatever unit you're making. Your cataphracts are also, movement speed has been increased, and tooltips updated. So cataphracts might be a little bit better now, which is kind of nice because Byzantine cataphracts have always been kind of weak. So a little bit faster movement speed, at least, and earlier access to the flasks might be helpful for that build. We'll have to test it out. And I think this is the upgrade on the houses that increase their vision, maybe, and that cost is increased a little bit. Ming Dynasty, so the final dynasty of Chinese has been increased. The health bonus 10 to 15, which is a pretty good upgrade, I think, or change, because I think a lot of times when you're Chinese, you don't switch into that final dynasty because the previous dynasty increases movement speed by like 10%. So this kind of maybe makes the Ming Dynasty a little bit more impactful and desirable, which is kind of nice. I always thought that dynasty wasn't very, useful. I would often avoid it if I was Chinese. So next thing here, Thunderclap bombs, nest of bees, reload bug, speed bug fix. I don't know what this is. Sounds like sometimes there was a bug with the nest of bees. I don't know what a Thunderclap bombs. Maybe this is an upgrade when you increase the attack speed of the nest of bees, but there was a bug. Looks like it's fixed. These are just tooltips, but the stone wall repair is still working, and then it also it grants passability. So your Great Wall Gatehouse, your Barbican become a little bit better now. They can repair nearby walls, which is kind of nice. And the passive healing now affects nearby palisade walls, gates, stone wall gates. So all these, just a quality of life improvements to that upgrade, I think. So some changes to the deli here. The H2, I believe H2 landmarks have been changed slightly. So your scholar discount on your Dome of Faith is improved a little bit. So there's a little bit cheaper to get your scholars out, which is nice. And then House of Learning, a lot of changes here to these upgrades. I'm not familiar enough to know what all these upgrades are, but I know your Men at Arms upgrade here for your deli is just basically reducing the research cost time, right, on a lot of these upgrades, which is nice. There's some changes too, some new technologies. So archers and crossbowmen can be upgraded to have longer range. Elephants move faster. So these are nice quality of life things for deli, because I felt like, especially this one here, like elephants are really slow, especially in free for all. It's probably nice to have them move a little bit faster here. So we'll have to see how that works out. And then also this one, well, I'll read this first. So Ghazi Raider nerfed slightly in feudal. So your mounted units are a little bit weaker, but later age is unimpacted. And then War Elephant. So the melee War Elephant now deals AOE damage. So that's really interesting. We'll have to see how that plays out, because that sounds like it could potentially be overpowered, but also maybe not. Elephant's never been the best unit just because you can deal with them with ranged units, right? But if they're AoE damage like an Ultralisk in StarCraft 2, that could be pretty nice, right? So we'll have to take a look at that one. Just some bug fix for English. French. So French has, I don't think this first one is very meaningful. I have never actually even used this ability because it seems like it has like a 3-minute cooldown to use the artillery shot. So I've never even used it or really. I always get the other, like the castle, the Red Keep or whatever it's called, the H4 landmark. I never get this one. I don't think it's worth it. I don't think fixing this issue, targeting your own buildings, is probably going to impact it at all. Economic technologies discount bonus increased to 35%. Now this is really nice. French, I think French in 1v1 is considered one of the worst civs in the game. I think in free for all it's actually a really good civ, and I think in my tier list I put it up there, pretty high. And JD is really not very good, but French, the base civ, quite a bit better, and also having these eco upgrades definitely helps him out a little bit. Also, I know I'm sure in 1v1 people are gonna say this isn't a very good upgrade to fix French, but the Chamber of Commerce, coming out 15 seconds faster. If you spawn on a map with a neutral trade post in the middle and you go for this instead of the landmark to build the knights, which obviously sounds kind of crazy, but I've done it before, and I think this has some potential here on those kind of maps, right? Like getting those traders out a lot faster earlier in the game. Free traders too, when you just get your eco upgrades, you can just boom so fast, right? Like it's definitely a situational thing. Like you have to make sure like the path is clear right in the beginning of the game to start trading. That there's not another player who built a town center in between you and the trade post. But this could have a lot of, this could have a lot of potential, and I think we'll have to see how that works. If you're not too worried about doing damage to your opponent early on, this is definitely something you might want to consider. But of course, there's not always a neutral trade post on a free-for-all map, right? It's not the most common thing ever. HRE, increased duration of Inspire. I don't think that's going to really impact much, except in the cases where you're either moving your prelate away from your villagers to another pack of villagers. It could be impactful there. Or say you've got so many villagers that you're inspiring that your global cooldown on that ability is taking too long. But really, it's just not really much of a change. Line of sight bonuses decrease, so having relics in your buildings is a little bit weaker in terms of line of sight and how far you can see. Not much of a change, but definitely important. So Japanese, Tatar cost reduced. I don't know what upgrade that is actually. Maybe is that like your wheelbarrow upgrade? I don't think so. I think it's already, maybe it is actually. So that could be nice. Shinobi cost reduced, so more shinobis maybe. Basically, they're trying to incentivize people to build the other landmarks that aren't used as much. And I think, on a water map, you usually build this landmark at least. So you don't really need the, the one that builds the free farms, right? So this one, maybe a little bit helpful, but still, shinobis aren't very common, so we'll have to see. I have noticed that the shinobis can actually snipe vills. So if you have, vills out on a, outside your main base, harvesting some resources without protection, shinobis can definitely be really annoying there. They can, of course, be very annoying when you have docks, and they can disable them. So they've also improved that in a previous patch. So shinobis are better now, so they're definitely worth testing. Buddhist monks cost reduced. So they're basically trying to nerf floating gate and buff Temple of Equality here. And I think this is definitely interesting. Like typically you put your Yoshiro on your gold, on your forge and get more gold, since you run out of gold on FFA quite frequently on some maps. But that's being nerfed. They're trying to incentivize you to use them more on your town center for production speed, which is kind of nice. I think the problem with this here is that you can put them on your production, right, on your town center to increase production speed. But then once you have the villas that you need, there's really not an easy way to remove this on your TC and switch it to a different building, because what are you going to do? Delete your town center, right? Like it's not really viable. Like typically, if you would throw the Yoshiro on a production building, like say a stables, for example, to get your samurai out faster, you can then delete that stables later and get a new Yoshiro, switch it over to a forge or whatever you want to do. But now, if you put it on your town center, I mean, this is a pretty, it was already kind of nice. I didn't really utilize this much, but I think it's definitely a viable thing to do. But I think I'm definitely going to try this landmark more, because for starters, we have a reduce the cost of the Buddhist monk. The upgrade for the Buddhist monk is also decreased in cost, and then the research time has been reduced slightly. So this just especially this first one here, just transitioning into like a whole army of Buddhist monks to just get passive gold income is quite a bit cheaper, 20% cheaper, so it's definitely worth considering, especially on a map without a lot of gold. I think you might want to consider doing this. Of course, it's going to take supply, so you're definitely going to need a kill or two to really make it, viable as a strategy, I think. But if you do get that, then I think this Temple of Equality can now pay off quite a bit better in some ways. Of course, it's still very beneficial to just get free gold. You're getting a little bit less now, but still, it's just completely free, no supply cost, no investment cost. Your Yoshiro spawn for free, so you can still see that this obviously is going to probably be the go-to for most games, but we'll have to do some testing and see how Temple of Equality works now. And then this, I think this is your upgrade, maybe your second town center upgrade, so you can get your your, what do they call them, your special unit out faster, more of your special bannermen, that's what they are, bannermen out faster, which is nice, and it costs a bit less stone. Malians, so let's see here. So for remote leadership, I'm not sure what this upgrade is. I'll have to look into that, but whatever it is, it's a huge cost decrease. It was a very expensive upgrade too. I really have no idea what upgrade that is. I'm gonna have to look into that one, guys. Local knowledge, technology reworked. New effect is Musadafi warriors and gunners gain +5 health. So the stealth upgrade has been adjusted, and it's nice that their attack has been increased for 5 seconds after coming out of stealth. So that's kind of nice. Makes it a little more beneficial to have that upgrade. So this is interesting. So they're buffing the Age4 landmark that we pretty much use if we go into cavalry to get the torch, increased torch damage. And the main thing I see here, I mean, obviously this one is huge, right? If you ever use Production Festival, I've never really used it before, but I think this could be beneficial. Say, if you're not, I think the problem with these other festivals is that if you're using them for the torch damage, you're never going to use them for anything else really, because I guess cooldown's 30 seconds in between, but the festival duration is now 90 seconds is the big thing. So your torch damage is going to last quite a bit longer. If you ever use any of the other ones, it's going to last 50% longer. So that's quite a huge buff right there, right? But it also means the cooldown is, I think, 30 seconds after it ends. So basically, that kind of increases the cooldown until you can click it again. But your uptime is going to be, your uptime is going to be a lot higher. It's going to be like 75% now instead of 50%. So your uptime is going to be a lot longer on this upgrade, which is great. It's still going to cost the same amount of resources, I believe. No changes there. But still a pretty good upgrade, especially in free-for-all. Go around snipe players with the torch damage. So they're upgrading the other, the keep, the other H4 landmark to poison arrows. I'm not sure how impactful that is, but probably not much. But the most interesting change to Malians here is this last one. It's the, so what they're doing is they're saying, okay, so Malians, you kind of get a lot of passive gold, free gold, right? With your pit mine, with your houses around the pit mine. So instead of taking stone to build your extra town centers, we're going to switch that to gold, but it's going to cost more. So I'm really curious to see how this plays out. It definitely makes it, I think, a little bit easier to get your economy rolling with Malians earlier on to get extra town centers, because you're already getting a bunch of gold from those pit mines, right? If you get those out quickly. So you just kind of really just need to invest into wood early game, right? And you can get everything you need going with Malians. You get your wood for your pit mines, for your houses, and then you get your extra town centers, and then you get your your pastures for the cows, and you're solid, right? So yeah, this is a really interesting change. I'm not sure if it's a good one or a bad one. I think it's a good one for Malian, but it is more. It does cost more, and we'll have to see. I mean, basically, it's letting you eco a little bit easier, but Malian's already pretty slow. So if you're ecoing on top of doing a cow boom, you're going to be even slower in some ways, but you don't have to mine any stone at the same time. So the problem with this is like you're spending a lot of your gold, right, which you would normally use for your cow boom to build the actual cows, I think. So yeah, it's kind of like you're going to have to choose, right? Maybe cow boom is like, maybe you could even skip cow boom and go just into farms, or if there's lots of food on the map, you could just see if you can avoid the cow boom, and just go for town centers. We'll have to see how that plays out. That's interesting. Okay, so moving on, Mongols. Pasture sheep, train time reduced. So basically your sheep spawn faster. I think that means you can put more vills per pasture or something like that. I think someone broke that down. It's like, maybe it's like 3 vills per pasture or something like that. I'm not sure. Haven't tested enough, but it's nice to see that they're buffing that. Raid bounty. So the tech time to reduce your raid bounties and torch stuff has been reduced. So that's nice. You can start getting your bounties faster in the game, which definitely impacts free for all, right? Like you do rely on bounty. Unlike neutral players who left the game, you can just torch all their buildings, get a bunch of free resources. Great stuff. Further, so your mobility upgrade. So this is also kind of nice. I think this definitely is helpful in free for all, because if you have this in feudal age, you can quickly relocate. You can decide, okay, I don't like my spawn location where I built my town center in nomad mode, and I can get the heck out of here a lot faster, right? With this upgrade, and relocate to a new position if I want to. Deerstone's upgraded. So there's these new units, the Con Hunters, which are being added, but they sound interesting. They give like an aura to other nearby range units, so other Manganai can improve the range. So that's going to be interesting to see how that impacts things with the Con Hunters, the new unit. I'm not sure how it's going to impact things, but it looks like a buff all around, right? Like our Cagnet's getting buffed too, because we're getting these Con Hunters with our Manganai army and our Horse Archer army. They'll both get Con Hunters, so yeah, hopefully they're pretty good, and I think if they're providing an aura, they're definitely going to be pretty solid. So we'll have to see how that looks, and then the con looks a little different now in Imperial Age, just a cosmetic change, but no, I think it's definitely worth experimenting with, because you definitely rely on, when you rush Cagnate Palace in FFA, you often rely on these units here to start doing early chip damage to opponents, or start, like your units are just so much more powerful, being some of the fastest elite upgraded units you can get in the game right away. So we'll have to see how this plays out. I think it could be pretty nice. All right, so they're trying to incentivize the Ottoman, Age 3 upgrade, more visitor points, and then Sea Castle, of course, also getting a nice upgrade with the free Bombard. So, but I still don't really imagine, unless you're getting attacked already, I don't think you're going to go Seagate. Typically in FFA, you're going to get the Istanbul Observatory, of course, the university, and then blacksmith upgrade for all your production. Now here's the roost changes. So the Kremlin, the militia no longer have a lifetime, like a duration. They just take 1 damage per second until they're at 1 HP, and then I assume they either expire at that point, or maybe they stay alive at 1 HP and they're easily killed. I don't know. It doesn't specify what happens to them. I guess or it kind of does. I guess it says that they don't, maybe they don't take damage at the 1 HP. It doesn't really matter at that point. They're almost cannon fodder at that point, right? But that's an interesting change. I think that's probably good, because I think that they were a little bit overpowered maybe. You know, and now, I mean, obviously in some ways this is a buff because they're not going to expire. But I think taking damage 1 per second is actually a nerf in most cases when they're being, they're actually having to fight them. Golden Gate actually buffed, so that's kind of nice. More, resources to trade, be nice. And then Warrior Monks, the cost reduces all Warrior Monks, so you can build extra monasteries, just a quality of life thing mostly, unless you're going mass Warrior Monks, which isn't very common. I don't think it's going to affect anything, but here's once again touching on the bounty change. Like I was mentioned before, 1 gold per every 10 food gathered from any animal. So to me, this is a huge nerf, I think, personally. I mean, maybe in the late game this is nice. Maybe it pays off in the end, right? If you're generating, deer from your age 3 landmark, you've got 1 gold per second on all these animals that you've been mining over the course of the game. But in the early game, mid game, I think this is a huge nerf, because I think, in FFA, especially big maps, team games, stuff like that, any big map where there's lots of deer spawns, you're going to be able to get a huge bounty off of deer, right? And for me, most games as Roos, I don't need to even mine gold until Castle Age, until I've already gotten Castle Age, right? So getting only 1 per every, 10 food means, like, so say you mine enough food off of animals for your feudal age, right? That's 400 food. It means you got 40 gold. That's it. You got 40 gold. So you can still build, your hunting cabin at the start of the game and get some gold there. So you're going to be able to get feudal, I think, without mining if you want to. But you're definitely not getting castle anymore off of mining, right? Like, you're just not getting enough food or gold for free. There's no way, right? So this might incentivize going into more hunting cabins sooner, and it might but I think all around it's going to make Roos a lot weaker, especially in team games and free for alls where the maps are bigger, where the bounty you were getting was higher. It's now going to be much, much lower. Even in 1v1, I think this is going to impact Roos. It's going to be nerfed. I mean, Roos is, I think, really strong in 1v1, so this was definitely intended to be a nerf. But I think it was always a civ that was banned in like tournament games. So we'll have to see it. But I think this is just a huge nerf for Roos in general. Variant civ changes. So AU bids here. We got some changes here. Fixed an exploit. I don't know what this is. I guess there was a way you could dupe the Adabig, but it's gone now, fortunately. Eco Wing industry reduced. So, okay, so this is one of the wings that like gave you free wood, and now they're adding stone to like the castle and imperial version of it, which is kind of nice, I think this was a wing that wasn't very commonly researched, so they're just trying to incentivize some of the wings that are not used as much here. You can see some of these other changes: trade wing, culturing changes, healing auras, and scaling with per age, permanently on all ages instead of just age 4, which is nice to get culture now. Logistics, so maybe you want to get logistics to like help defend your base, Trade wing bazaar changes, skirmishers. So yeah, a lot of these less commonly used wings are being slightly upgraded, but not too much here. Some nerfs to like the dervish cost. Golden Age, I think this one might be a little bit important, is the research time is now being decreased quite a bit for the Golden Age tier 2, which is kind of unfortunate. But AU bids is very strong 1v1, so it makes sense they're targeting some nerfs here. But for FFA, AU bid is not a great civ anyways, and now it's even worse, it seems. Except for some of these other wings might be worth experimenting with. I don't really know too much about them, but you can test them out, right? So John Dark has the same upgrade discount as French, which is good. John Dark really needs some help, but I didn't talk about this yet. This having to do with French and John Dark. The trade post fully revealed. I don't think that's really, I think that's just a quality of life thing. So you can actually see the trade post. Like if you look at it on your map instead of just on the mini map, it doesn't really mean anything important as far as I know. Yeah, same upgrade here. So this is kind of nice. Obviously both these very nice for JD, but you know, JD is a really tough civ anyways to play in FFA. So obviously helpful, but not as meaningful as the French ones, I think. Just because French is much better because you have faster villager production, you get the castle discount bonus on French, which you don't get on JD. Order of the Dragon. So villager time reduced. Obviously, this is a pretty significant buff, right? Order of the Dragon, of course, it's a civ in 1v1 that kind of is not very good, but in FFA, it can be extremely good if you get kills. Burgrave also everything's faster, so that's a little bit a nice little buff there too. Jushi, fixed a bug. Upgrades on Mount Lu Academy decreased. The cost decreased. Research time reduced on library. And then Palace Guarding. I don't know why this is happening. You know, Palace Guard's obviously a very good unit. But I guess maybe these are just the age 2 ones, if that's what they're saying. I'm reading this right. They're increased slightly, so that's fine, I think. Castle Age, Palace Guards, obviously very powerful for Jushi. And then that's pretty much it as far as the patch notes go. Finally, we have, you know, some stuff that's coming on the horizon, which looks very interesting. A full Siege gameplay update, including rework of the role and functionality of Spring Elves and Culverins. I don't know what they mean by this. You know, Spring Elves and Culverins obviously siege, but I don't know what they're gonna do here. I have no idea what this means. But it does sound interesting. We'll have to wait and see. New upgrades at the university for all civs, also very interesting. What could they possibly be adding there? I have no idea. Ottomans, okay, some new visor point options, very interesting. And I'm not sure what a Mansa, what a Farimba garrison is. Maybe that's, yeah, it's some civ landmark, I think, but it's not, you know, I don't know what they're talking about here, but we'll have to see what that means. Season 9 release, okay, you know, probably before the end of the year, I'm guessing, you know, maybe like in the winter time or whatever, we're gonna get the season 9 probably, I would guess. But they're investigating adding multiplayer pause, which is very interesting. It's a feature they've had in StarCraft since forever, and they've never had it in AOE, so that'll be a nice quality of life change if they are able to successfully implement that. I don't know if they would be allowed in free-for-all games. That would be funny, but maybe. So we'll see. And hopefully they just implement it, of course, with a feature that allows a timer, you know, so you can't just pause forever, or people can't just instantly unpause. Hopefully there's a little bit of a cooldown there. And hopefully people won't troll and just pause at the beginning of every single game, but we'll have to see. So anyways, that's it, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. It's getting a little long here, so I didn't mean for it to go on this long, but there's a lot to talk about here. Not a huge amount of stuff changing, but definitely some interesting stuff worth looking at for some of the civs. And hopefully we'll do some testing and be able to see how these upgrades impact the game in free-for-all. So talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Peace.